Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service. Here again to present the full moon chart. And just again to reiterate what a full moon is simply the reflection of the new moon. So in a sense, they go together. They're compadres. They work together because what we discover through the new moon can be clarified through the full moon. So I wanted to get that done because I did do the full moon, the new moon. So I wanted to do its partner, the full moon. It's also the holidays, so I have to do everything kind of quickly because I won't be around after tomorrow. So I'm getting it over with. So we're seeing all these videos in a row. With that said, this is an interesting chart. What I really like about it is that it's actually a 0-degree ascendant. Now, in horary, this would not be necessarily a good thing because it means that it's undefined. It's not come to a place where it could be describable or how we say, where you really can't get the result of the matter because still more is to come. I truly feel that way after looking at this chart. So I'm going to stick with my pattern of how I work with these charts. We will look at the chart for DC, but then I will move into the Aries axis and I'll then move into the axis of the new moon to see how it affects everybody in the world, not just those of us who live in the United States. But we'll start off that way and move on through. With that said, let's go and check out this chart. So we have here the quote-unquote pizza pie chart. And again, I use Placidus for this kind of work, just because I want to catch anything that might fall on the cusps. I really like to put a little bit of extra importance on that. Just a kind of really quickly going through the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC like I normally do. Interestingly enough, the ascendant comes with hubris. Hubris being one of the fates. So there's something very fated about what's going on. Also, just to note, Venus, South Node, and Zeus can all be said to be part of that particular 0-degree Scorpion ascendant because we can go 10 degrees on either side. Now, Venus South Node could be bad timing with friends, bad timing in relationships. It could also be oppression through finances, but definitely we get this concept of oppression through finances, relationships. Now, what's interesting is South Node is also pointing out to each of us old patterns. And it does fall into the 12th house, a very spiritual house. But it's also a reminder that sometimes in order to make money, make friends, or to get further in a relationship, we tend to fall back on old patterns. Maybe that's asking us not to do that. So in addition to that Venus South Node, you have to notice that Zeus is still, again, not very far away from the South Node. And this can be anything from how the wars that are going on around the world are very oppressive, particularly financially, but also spiritually. And so we have a lot of question about that perhaps that's a factor. But the other factor is that Zeus also represents the seeds, and it could be that something that's beginning is oppressive. So there's a couple ways of looking at that. Now, as I move down beyond what I see in the 12th house, and we'll get to the other asteroids that are not listed in all of my glyphs, because I do work with a lot more than this. We have, with that hubris, we also have Sappho for the bonding of people. So people are bonding. But if you look across the way, see here's hubris, straight across, which would also be an aspect, we have Hephaestus. Now with Hephaestus, there is this, as a character, he was actually very clever and, he married someone beautiful and all of that, although he was himself lame. But I do feel that what we're doing in some respects is bonding with situations, and this could be anybody in the United States, but it could also be something that you might see no matter where you live, where the bonding between people is happening, maybe even for political reasons, but it is totally with people who are not of the same mindset. They're opposites in many ways. They're odd couples. So that's a factor. And some of these odd couples are coming in through business, Apollon. But it also points out that there could be more than one ill-fitting partnership in all of this. The other thing about that politics asteroid Pallas, if you will, and then we get this here we go again, which is kind of really interesting. But remember that in politics, how people get where they get is by saying what they think you'll want to hear. And realize that it's when we kind of pull back. Here we go again, and that we can see that there is a way through this whole thing that can solve problems. So that's actually pretty good. Now, the North Node, because the South Node is configured at the ascendant, is actually through our connections and our partnerships. And that's going to ride and ring true, most particularly with people here in the United States, that even though it might be an odd couple, it might be the way to solve some problems. And it kind of brings me to the House of Representatives, where the Republicans have literally gone to a place where they don't want to do anything with anybody. Okay, so they're really trying to hold up the works here. But the only way to solve problems is by bonding with those people. And that is part of why the government went through. Now, the government did sign. I was wrong on that video. But did they really? Because there's no expenses set up for the wars. So there's no aid to anybody. And they're really still wheeling and dealing to try to get out of some of the stuff that was already promised through Kevin McCarthy. But the only way to get that fixed, literally, is by bonding with people that are different than you in order to come up with a solution. So it was like a very perfect example of what I wanted to say. But realize, guys, that if you live in America, and particularly if you live on the East Coast, this may be true on a personal level. So be aware of that. Now, as I move on, and particularly as it relates to this, one of the things that's really cool is the Selena. Now, I know that we don't have the right math on her, but I have a feeling she's still going to be around this, which is the discovery of new talents. And the reason why I think it really is around where it says is because Jupiter is running with it, and Jupiter and Valentine's Day were really happy about the ability to expand, to heal. Remember that Apollon is over here, so we actually literally have an Apollon Jupiter. And Apollon Jupiter could be the expansion of business. Now, Jupiter and Apollon, you think of them together and you think, wow, that must be like a formula for success. And I won't deny that. But I will say is that not all astrology is good as much as all astrology is not bad. And what I mean to say by that is that realize that Jupiter acts in excess. And in many respects, so does Apollon, because Apollon is the excess of more than one. Jupiter is that expansive quality. So one of the things we have to be concerned with is maybe things that we don't agree with or things that we're not happy with could, particularly if it relates to business, could be expanding. Could also be healing in business, but I'm not probably going to put any money on that. Now, as I move into continuing with this Taurus energy, which is, by the way, it's all retrograde. So it won't act normal. It doesn't mean that it won't act out. It just won't, it might not be as easy to grasp. Or you grasp it and you go, oh, that's what the retrograde is. But people are really excited about, I want to say, healing and expansion. I want to say that with this being, a makeover and the, here we go with that politics thing again. People who just say what you want to hear. Okay, be very aware of that, people. But I do feel, because remember, I'm sorry, we can't go up to that politics. I want to take that out because we can only go to 10. I said 12. But it is going to show up because it's over here. And the reason why I went there is because it's over there. So sometimes that's a repeatable theme. So as I move through all of this, which starts at 11, I'm going to say that it's alternative plans that actually, they're interruptions, but they will solve the problem. And panacea is with the North Node. So that could be the pauses that'll happen in Palestine. Thank God. So those people can get the help they need. Here we have, there's a questioning. Okay, now the interesting thing is the questioning, what is going on? And this could be anybody questioning what's going on, questioning the future as a result of that. And then you got this square going on from ascendant to midheaven. We're going to be questioning everything, or we should be. And keep that in mind for your own personal life, people. Blame, the pressure. There's so much pressure. And the pressure is about a blame. But if we keep looking at things in order to assign blame, we could end up with Alicia egg on the face. The process that we're going to go by is slow. And a lot of people's prides could be affected because of the slowness of it. But that Diana ain't giving up. That's a hunter-prey concept. And we saw that in the last chart. I'm not sure if it was now that I've done so many, the new moon, or if it was the Mars ingress, which only happened 3 days prior to this particular chart. Okay, this full moon chart. So with this, we've got interruptions, disruptions, but I do believe that it's all about solving problems. And if we do continue to try to place blame, it kind of isn't a good way to solve problems. It will still solve them, but I think it creates a little bit more hassle. So these are the obvious. So then we come down here to the IC, this is a very interesting placement. We actually have here Hera, partners again. And I'm going to just show you this. Remember that I said, no, we can't include that Minerva, which works very much like Pallas. Yeah, we can. We can, but it's not as strong. But look at 1120 to 1237. It's a square. So it still plays in. And this is one of the things I wanted to point out. The other thing that plays in here is Pluto at 28 degrees. Now look at this. There's a transformation with those relationships, those bondings that we have with people that are very, very different. Okay, so that's really interesting because that is another square. A lot of work. Think of this. I don't think of squares as bad. Of course, I have a chart that supports more than its fair share. But I will say this. It does make me a worker bee. And that comment, even from people who have issues with me, they always say I work hard. And the reality is that that's what a square represents. It just represents working hard. We need to work hard for this. So it's really important. Phaethon is there, and Phaethon is the one asteroid that does fall right on the cusp. I like to look for that. Strange as though it may be, I do like to look for that. We got another one here with a health asteroid on the 5th. And I do think that it's really important right now for people to check out and watch their health. So that's another right on point. But so is faith on. And the interesting thing is, what is the vehicle for denial? Because think of faith on as a vehicle. Now, for those of us who have, our own personal lives going on, yes, it could be automobiles. In my case, it could be a camper, which is our motorhome, actually, which is something I'll be working or dealing with over the weekend because we have our own drivable living room, bedroom. But I think that look at it this way. Everything is beginning to really transform, and especially with regards to the bully. And with that said, people, please don't listen to the polls. Remember that the media companies, especially the big medias, are only 6 of them owned by 6 right-wing companies. So we don't have what I like to refer to as the free press like we did once upon a time. That's not true anymore. Right now, big business runs everything, which makes us more of an oligarchy. So it's just actually something to think about. Not necessarily a good thing either. But I do believe, and I really do, I look to Pluto with things like that. I say to myself, wow, Pluto is getting ready to change signs. It's going to be going into the sign of the people. So from the corporations to the people. And I really feel that that will be good for us and the health of our country. Now, we could break this down because Westphalia, so we have Taureau, which could represent hearts and muscles because it's a heart, as well as bullying, but also how people become wacko jobs when they are ill. And I've done a lot of study. Obviously, I do medical astrology, so I've done a lot of study in disease. And I can tell you that vascular dementia could look like this. And vascular dementia is a really rough one because it is vascular. And that squeezing of those arteries will really cause frustration and anger. And remember that we're dealing still with the Sun and Mars being in aspect. They're still in aspect, guys. Okay, they're still an aspect. The thing I want to point out about this one is they still square Saturn, but not as closely, which means depending on where you live, there could be something on the angles with them. But what really got me on this one was Admetus. Now, Admetus is with the people, okay? And Admetus is this idea of being stuck, being resistant, I think people are going to be resistant and they're going to stick to their guns on a lot of things. But it's also that idea that the people are enduring. What do the people have to endure? And that's the reason why so many people feel the way they do about these wars. And particularly, as much as we definitely want to be behind Israel, we have to look at the fact that the Palestinians are now the group of people that are marginalized. And after all the years that Israel has gone through, it's really sad for me to see that they're doing it to somebody else. Because they know what it feels like, and it doesn't feel good to be a people without land. So it could be that, we're watching people just really endure. Okay? That's a fact. And that really is a fact. I'm not going to get into the Apollonia because Apollon is down here, and I know business plays a huge role in everything going on. I do feel that there are some issues with some people in business. I'm not going to get into it where, again, remember Sedna, and I'm positive that's Sedna. So let me just pull her up. Yep. Remember that Sedna is all about the avoidance of people who are bitter and angry and, just repressed in some way. And you really, you might want to either refuse to do business with certain people or you want to, especially with that adamitas there, you really want to look at that before you get involved. So let me throw that out as something I just want us to be aware of. Now, I didn't go through the angles with the extra asteroids. I felt like that was enough, because what I really like to spend my time on is how this chart is affecting, okay, other, I'll give you an example. A lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about does run into the axis of the sun moon. So that's another reason why I didn't bother, because it would have been double going through it. I mean, you can just look down here. One of the numbers on the axis is 1221 fixed. Well, if you're talking about particularly the axis of the midheaven and the axis of the IC, 1221 falls in that axis. Okay, so just realize then that that means that all of the planets in the sun moon, or asteroids, because I'm not worried about planets at this point, are going to hit the either IC or the, well, it's all going to hit the midheaven of the United States chart. So we are very much an active player. So let's go to the dial, because that's where I want to do the majority of my work. All right, so there we go. I actually am going to start with the Aries point, and let me state the obvious here. Do you see the star? Because I see a star, a six-pointed star. So look at that. So the Aries point is creating a star. And, you know, I know that Poseidon is close by that Aries point, but I want us to look at what is directly there, which is atropos. And atropos is endings. So I think what the world is working on right now is, to some degree, endings. Well, not only are we ending the corporate 20 years, well, really 250 years, but the last 20 years in particular, well, really 40 because it started with the Reagan years, but 20 years in terms of astrology. So that's over. And now we're moving into a new age and a new series of 250 years, but also a new series of 20 years. So in here, and I didn't do a lot of these because other than Cupido Mercury, which is news about families or children's associations, there really wasn't. I mean, Vesta is that the lack of clarity for things that are far away, the lack of clarity with our goals, the lack of clarity. In other words, we really don't know what we're doing. Oh, that's right. None of us do. Okay, so that's an Aries point thing. And the same thing with Vesta Mercury. Our thoughts are on things far away, but also our thoughts are on what are our goals? What should we set up as our goals? Okay, so we're kind of in that. When I saw Sphinx at the midheaven there, oops, that kind of did it for me. So that played it out. Again, I don't see a lot at the, here we go. Let me get it to the minute. But the nodes, because the nodes actually fall right in the Aries point. Okay, so they come with sudden news, maybe even shocking news. It's a Uranus Mercury, but then also a Uranus Neptune. Now, as an astrologer, I'm not afraid of a Uranus Neptune. I actually have one in my chart, but I'm an astrologer. Okay, so yeah. Mm-hmm. But it also means that some of our friends will be, what's the word I want to use? Transient. Transient. Okay, because of the configuration here with Neptune. Also, it could be, again, people that are involved in light worker type work. So psychics, astrologers, people that are doing that kind of work. So it's pretty interesting. Now, the other thing I want to show here, which I find really, really interesting, is this right here is Apollonia and Ceres. So we're talking about the food business, but it's also about the business to take care of yourself, or businesses that relate to taking care of yourself. Okay, so these are the obvious. Let me go to the little bit less obvious because I have it. Here it is. Okay, so I did the Aries point with pencil. So let's hope I don't confuse because I try to do the color-coded thing here. First of all, we want to be fair. Well, I think this whole Hamas Palestine thing is everybody looking at it from the direction of, can we be fair? Please be fair. Also in the Aries point, as I pointed out, is endings. And the endings won't be, they're retro, so they won't be exactly what we're expecting, but they are there. And Apollonia, as I just pointed out, is in there. So business is in there. So there's a lot about business in here. Now, one of the things that is very upsetting to me as an American citizen, but it's been upsetting to me for many decades, is the fact that there is a war machine. That there are people making lots and lots of money on war. And there's two things I really can't stand in life. People who make profits on other people's illnesses and people who make profits on war. So that's a personal thing. Other people may disagree with me, but that's okay. Something else that we're looking at here in the Aries point, and like I said, there wasn't as much, but one of the things that, and I'm just wondering how this shows up, but it's the body. So it could be body language, something we might be seeing on television. It's with money that we do the makeover. Remember, I already mentioned that because that showed up. So money and makeover. Takes some money to make a makeover, but we need to do that. The South Node. We already said the nodes were in there. A little too little and a little too late when it comes to a narcissist and his cruelty. So shall I give you those asteroids? Liliputina, little too little, little too late. Rank, which is narcissistic behavior. Could be a twig, but we're not looking at a crime scene. We're actually looking at a chart. And then we have Sweeney. And you're thinking about, well, cruelty and Sweeney, well, think of Sweeney Todd, because that's what I think of. It's cruelty. That Baker was just a bad man. So then it moves on, and we have Demeter and coin. So it's food, it's money for food, it's money so that people can be taken care of. That makes sense. Here's another narcissist who lies. I'm just going to sit here. You figure it out. Okay, so we have a narcissist with Laplace being the lie and Rosé, which is, again, narcissistic behavior. It's other things. If you're doing health, it can also be bladder cancer, or if anybody has a health issue that deals with the bladder or bladder disease, that could also be that. But then that would be a lie with it. So here we go again with, I think we know which meaning fits the best. Oh, wait. That's actually in the Mars axis. I did it again. Sorry, that one's coming back to you. It's Morpheus and Champion that we're actually looking at. And I want to go check this because Morpheus is actually one of our newer ones. I love this. It's dreams, people. Follow your dreams. Yes. So Morpheus is dreams, and it's in the dreams that we are champion. So it's championing dreams. Awesomeness. Last one is karma. There's a lot of karma being played out here. Well, we got Hubris on the ascendant. That's also the fates. So we got a lot of karma being played out with this chart. Now, in the next area, I did go through, even more so, I went through the midpoints. Okay, so here we go. It is, oops, it's 4:51. Here we go. Oh, there it is. Okay. Not quite. 51, so we got a little bit of ways. There it is. Okay. Now, do you see that the sun and moon equal Circe? Circe is this asteroid right here. And I got to be honest with you, that's getting help and giving help at the 11th hour. So I kind of liked seeing that. I also like the fact that Hecate was there for listening to our intuition, for listening to our gut. Okay, not far away, and I know I'll be talking about this, is Hestia running with Aragon. Okay, Aragon is like a suicidal, self-destructive thing. And it makes me worried that people are self-destructing either through their work by working too much and then not paying attention to what's going on in their lives, so they don't have a very good balance between their work and their life. But also, you know, with Hestia there, think about things that are at a distance, okay? And the self-destruction of actions there. Now, just to go through this stuff really quickly, Moon and Sun is our connections. So on a personal level, it's our interactions, our connections, particularly with the people that we're close to. Vesta Volcana says that we're being pressured in the area of our goals. Okay, we're being pressured, perhaps by work, but we're being pressured. Cupido Volcanus also refers to pressures within an organization or a family, but there's pressure there. The Astrea Pluto tells us that there's ongoing transformation and that even in this chart, not everything will be solved, but we knew that. Chronos Zeus is literally big explosions that happen high up, new seeds brought about, new beginnings brought about by people in authority, but it can also be the explosive nature of an authority figure. So I do skip down, okay, so there's a Chiron Zeus on this, so there's other ways to be explosive. There's other new beginnings that we can try that are alternative, with the healing, you know, the wounded healer being there. So that's the first axis, and I'll come to the other asteroids in a minute. The other side of this axis is, here we go, 27, 21. Look at that. Okay, so now we have the asteroid Isis and the asteroid Lilith. That's doing things in pieces regarding triangulations in competition. Okay, so there's a selection rejection concept related to this, but also it's gender issues. And Isis is, you know, to me, that's gender issues, and it can relate to, as I said in the or was it the Mars chart? I did too many charts recently, but there was this whole concept of what I want to call reproductive health. But this is Isis. This is Isis, which is pieces, things that are done in pieces. Can also be siblings. Okay. So another thing for me to check. As soon as I saw it, I went, oh yeah, I forgot about that. The selection rejection and this pieces, things being done to pieces, equals Medusa. That's what this weird thing is up here. And Medusa and Arachne, which is complications, intrigue, are forming a midpoint to this point. So they both are really within access of this. Wild. Absolutely wild. So just again, node Mars, south node Mars. It's anger that's also oppressing us people. It's you know, we want to make those right connections, to make those right decisions. Aries point is bringing up the Neptune. We don't really know everything. And it's also bringing in the Mercury, news for the world. So there is a Volcanus, Uranus on this as well. So there's a lot of pressure through friends, but it's also pressure because of change. Changes are literally going to add to the pressure. Venus at Amitus here is, and we talked about this already, it's the idea of being stuck but also limiting one's associates, one's friends, and limiting one's money. So it'd be another way to look at that. Now, just for the last part, it's getting long. I just want to go through the asteroids that are there. Now, I should start off with the narcissist lie, Laplace and Rousseau, because I actually did say that in the wrong place. I had to look, the ink, it was red. So that is the Mars, that's the Mars axis. Also with that, we have Duke and Delero. And they're retrograde, but I'm going to be honest with you. They are money on money. Because Duke is rather large money. And of course, Delero is money too. And what I'm getting is Minerva. So Minerva is one of those political, I'll say anything you want to hear type asteroids. And so Minerva is definitely in the axis, all for something for us to look at. In other words, don't take for granted. The moon is in a wide conjunction, but it is only slightly over 2, and you know we can go 2.5 with Apollonia. So I think it's also that one of the reasons why people are stuck is because there's more than one relationship, more than one company, more than one financial outlet. Remember that the finances were in the United States in the house of combined resources. So that's where that moon Admetus is. Okay. On here, it's with, so that's the moon Admetus, and that's very much a part of this Apollonia, is just very barely being aspected by that. Moving down, I did talk about Medusa, and I did talk about Arachne. And I do think that there's a lot of complications and intrigue that we have to be very mindful of. I think that this is really cool because Born is another ascendant, and Born is very active, extremely active in the axis of the sun and the moon. Okay, so sun moon chart. I keep saying Mars. Mars is in there, but let's go with sun moon. Okay. Memoria, we're going to be doing a lot of remembering. There is a lot of antisocial behavior and concepts, as well as that hunter, prey, and the fact that people are grieving. There's going to be a lot of grieving next couple of weeks. Hecate is telling us to really mind our gut, particularly when it comes to formation of goals and work environments, Hestia, and things that are at a distance. Also, we get this idea that when it comes to the money, there is, I love this, there is an intellectual submissive. Okay, Gawain. Okay, so who's Gawain? Okay, so Gawain is one of King Arthur's knights, but he sits at the table. But one of the things about him is, even though he's very smart, he can't really say anything because you have to be submissive when you're dealing with certain people. So we get that, and get this one with big money. Need I say more? I think we already know who's intellectually has to go along with things. Let's just put it that way. Swindle is in here. Barlow is in here. Hebe is in here. You already know that Barlow is that extreme Pollyanna, right? So we have extreme Pollyanna happening right now with Swindle. Yeah, it's like you're being swindled and you're like, okay, go ahead, take it. I mean, come on, people. Okay? And Hebe is because we're trying to enable somebody else. See, that's, we're being swindled by somebody who's just Pollyanning everything. And we definitely need to wise up to that. Calypso tells us there's a lot going on that we don't know about. Remember, Sphinx was on the midheaven. This is only 1 minute out of orb, and I'm going to use it. It comes with Isis, which I already told you means pieces. Lilith, which is talking about competition, selection, rejection. And Persephone, sorry, is actually going out on your own. Lessons that you cannot learn unless you go on your own. So you can question anybody all you want, but unless you find that information out yourself, I don't know. Especially because the sun itself is running with Patsy, the willing victim. Who are the willing victims in all of this? Then it comes to Circe, which we already talked about, help at the 11th hour. Hera is telling us again to listen to our gut. Again, 1 minute out, that's it. Okay, so Hera is making a direct square to Calypso. I'm sorry, Hera is not the listening to your gut. This is Hera. This is partnerships. This is listen to people and listen to what they say. Conscience is running here, but so is Stockholm. And we all know what Stockholm means. Aragon again tells us that people are committing self-destructive acts. And hack is that we're looking for shortcuts, but it's running with veracities, which means that we are telling ourselves lies. We believe that if we believe these lies, if we do it with these lies that we tell ourselves, that this is what will make us happy. No, 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 no. That's a mistake. So with that said, I want to thank you for watching this video. And until we meet again, I wish you only happy reading.